Come on.
I tried to get audience.
Hello everybody. So how many here know the history of the car, the true history? From the man who created it to the first car ever made. The first car was produced by Henry Ford in 1904, and it was the Model T. The history of the car has followed people alongside technologies changing, winning wars, innovation, and so on and so forth. The car has always been alongside, almost like man's mechanical best friend. And there are millions, billions actually, driving around today, each that are different from each other and symbolize something different. The car didn't actually start with Henry Ford though. It started 14 years before with Carl Benz in Germany, the true creator of the car. Here it says, after having won financial backing from a family friend, Ford was actually producing a proper German style car, because while he created the car, Carl Benz wasn't able to create it with a patent and get the business running because nobody needed it at the time. So Henry Ford took the opportunity, built his own car, and mass produced it, which is why many people now think of him as the founder of the car. And from there, it just goes on through the 20s and the 30s, and up to the 50s actually. And cars through the 30s, or 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s were characterized with a very flowing, elegant design, more on beauty and a show of status and wealth, instead of practicality or things we look at today when you look at a car. When we get to the 60s though, is when cars really start to change. For context, the 60s was when we started building muscle cars, which are a popular American staple. Pickup trucks became popular in the 1960s, and rise in foreign sales of vehicles developed in the 60s. In particular, we brought in a lot of imports from Britain and Germany, so on and so forth, with like sports cars. This is also an important year for motorsport because things like the rivalry between Ford and Ferrari happened. Many developments in history. When we get to the 70s, we start to see a change in a more family-friendly style approach with station wagons and bigger vehicles traveling the country, station wagons, all that. And once we get into the 90s, we hit a retro phase where car makers will revert back to what they did in the 60s and start creating a retro version of it. That's what we see today with like Mustangs. Once we get into the 2000s though, from the 2000s on up, we get electric vehicles and what we see today. So your popular brands like Tesla, Toyota with their hybrids and electrics and all that. That's what we see from the 2010s. Now, when we talk about cars in history, we also talk about their significance. According to Peter Wallen, it is not so much a matter of drawing up a kind of balance sheet, assessing the pros and cons of the automobile as a social and cultural force, as of trying to understand the complex ways in which the car transformed our everyday life and the environment in which we operate, the food we eat, music we listen to, risks we take, places we visit, errands we run, emotions we feel, movies we watch, money we spend, and the stress we endure, and the air we breathe. It's a perfect quote about cars because they change with us, they are alongside, and as our technology advances, we see cars advance as well. So as I go through these next slides, I want you to look at the pictures and I want you to say the first thing that comes to mind when you see these pictures of these cars, because it signifies the car throughout the history. So for example, Ford's Model T, very first car ever. This, what do you associate it with? When you just see that picture, first thing you think of, you can say.
Cars.
Rich people.
Yeah.
Movie cars.
When I see this, I see, yes, mafia. It's a very characteristic photo, blacked out car. Okay, this one, Army, World War II in specific. You don't even have to know what type of vehicle it is just to see what it is. Next.
Hippie.
You don't, do you even know the names of these vehicles?
No.
But you can associate it with hippies just because of that, and that's the significance of the cultural impact cars have on us. That's mainly during the 60s when that happened. Next.
Hippie.
Country.
This is associated with a certain country. I would say second most notable icon of France. When you see a picture of this, the Citroën 2CV, it's usually with the Eiffel Tower. You see a picture of the Eiffel Tower, or if you see a picture of a town with this in the background, French automatically. This,
Family.
this we like to associate with communism in the Soviet Union. This is the Lada. This actually is a design taken from Fiat in the 1940s. This picture was taken in the 1980s. It shows the significance of the economic roles of the Soviet Union, as this hasn't changed in over 40 years, where in the 80s, you know, we're building these advanced cars, we're building muscle cars and all these other things. They're still stuck in the 40s in the Soviet Union. So the car is important in the world and how we live, and it's changed throughout the years. Many people don't know the true history of it, but there is a true meaning behind the car. And whether or not you know a lot about them or not, they really signify our change through history. So, thank you.